In the last chapter we just read, chapter 12, we heard Juliana's point of view about the dinner. So, why did Juliana finally decide to go to dinner at the Loskis? Go ahead and type in the chat. Why did Juliana decide to go to dinner? So at dinner, there was some discussion about Matt and Mike and their recording of their CD. So why were Julie's parents smiling at each other when Lynetta played their CD? Go ahead and type in the chat. Why do you think Julie's parents were smiling at each other when Lynetta played their CD? So the next chapter we're going to listen to is in Bryce's point of view, and it's titled Flipped, and it's pages 170 to 188, chapter 13. After the dinner, Julie was nice to me at school, which I hated. Mad was better than nice. Gaga was better than nice. It was like I was a stranger to her, and man, it bugged me. Bugged me big time. Then the auction happened, and I found myself with even bigger problems. The auction is this bonus way the Booster Club raises money for the school. They insist it's an honor to be chosen, but bull stinking lonely to that. Bottom line is, 20 guys get shanghaied. They have to come up with a fancy picnic lunches and then be humiliated in front of the whole school while girls bid to have lunch with them. Guess who made this year's top 20? You think mothers would say, hey, there's no way we're going to auction my son off to the highest bidder. But no, instead, they're all flattered that their son's been elected a basket boy. Yes, my friend, that's what they call you. Over the PA, you hear stuff like, there will be an organizational meeting of the newly elected basket boys in the NPR at lunch today. All basket boys must attend. Pretty soon, you've completely lost your name. You and 19 other saps are known simply as Basket Boy. My mom, of course, was into it, coming up with all sorts of stuff to put in my basket, so I'd get the highest bid. I tried to explain that I didn't want to be in Mayfield Junior High's Basket Boy Hall of Fame, and that really, what was in the basket didn't matter. It wasn't like girls were bidding on the basket. When you got right down to it, this was a meat market. You eat lunch on campus, and that's the end of it. It is hardly a meat market, Bryce. It's an honor. Besides, maybe someone really nice will bid on you, and you'll make a new friend. Mothers can be in such denial. And then Garrett bends my ear with the news that Shelley Stahl is breaking up with Mitch Michelson, and that she, Miranda Humes, and Jenny Atkinson are starting some bidding war over me. Dude, he tells me, the two hottest chicks on campus, and I swear to God, man, Shelley's dumped Mitch because of you. I heard it direct from Shagreer, and dude, Shagreer and the ear knows all. He throws me this nasty grin and says, me, I'm rooting for Jumbo Jenny. It would serve you right for being such a basket boy. I told him to shut up, but he was right. With the way my luck was running, I'd probably get stuck with Jumbo Jenny. I could just see it. 6 feet of beefy babe downing both halves of my lunch and then coming after me. Jenny's the only girl or guy on campus who can dunk a basketball. The whole gym shakes when she lands. And since she's got no, female parabolas, the girl could shave her head and make it in the NBA. Seriously, no one would ever expect. So go ahead and type in the chat. What do they call the boys at the auction? What do they call the boys at the auction? Her parents give her anything she wants, too. Rumor has it they converted their garage into a full-on basketball court just for her, which meant that in the game of the basket boys, I was as good as slam dunked. Unless Shelley or Miranda was higher bidder. But how could I make sure that happened? My brain went into overdrive, constructing a plan, and in the end, I decided that there was only one sensible course of action: kiss up to both of them. Halfway through the first day of doing this, I felt like a skunk. Not that I was being gross about it or anything, I was just, friendly. And even though Shelley and Miranda didn't seem to smell a thing, Garrett did. Dude, he says to me on Thursday, I can see your game, man. What are you talking about? Don't deny it, dude. You're working both of them. He comes up and whispers in my ear. Basket boy or not, I'm in awe. Shut up, man. Seriously, the ear says that they were like clawing at each other in PE today. I had to know. What about Jumbo Jenny? He shrugs. Haven't heard, but we'll find out tomorrow, won't we, dude? My mother dropped me off at school on Friday in my stupid oversized picnic basket, and since all basket boys had to dress up, I was choking in a tie and feeling completely dweeb-like in slacks and dress shoes. Kids whistled and shouted, "Ooh, baby," as I headed up into the walkway, and then Jumbo Jenny passed me, taking the front steps 3 at a time. Wow, Bryce, she said over her shoulder, you look delicious. Oh man, I practically ran into the classroom where all the basket boys were supposed to meet, and the minute I walked in, I felt better. I was surrounded by other dweebs who seemed genuinely happy to see me. Hey, Losky, yo, dude, doesn't this suck eggs? Why didn't you take the bus, man? Misery loves company. Then Mrs. McClure, the president of the boosters, the lady who lassoed us all, hooves it through the door. Oh my, she said, you all look so handsome. Not one word about our baskets, not one little sneak peek inside. No, all she cared about, for all she cared, those puppies were empty. Meat market. You better believe it. Don't be so nervous, boys, Mrs. McClure was saying. You're going to have a wonderful day. She pulls out a list of names and starts ordering us into line. We get numbers. Our baskets get numbers. We fill out 3x5 cards to her insane specifications. And by the time she got us all organized and is sure we know what to do and what not to do, we've missed all of first and most of second period. Okay, gentlemen, she said, leave your baskets where they are and go to... Where are we now? Still in second? She looks at the clock. Right, second. What about passes? Some sensible basket boy asked. Your teachers have a list, but if they say anything, tell them I say your neckties are your passes. I'll meet you back here when everyone's dismissed for the auction. Got it? Don't dawdle. We grumbled, yeah, and headed to class. And I can tell you this, not one of the 20 of us listened to a word any of our teachers said that morning. How can you listen with a noose around your neck, pinch toes, and a room full of idiots thinking it's open season on basket boys? Whoever started this stupid tradition ought to be crammed into a basket and tossed downstream without a serving spoon. So go ahead and type in the chat, what is a basket boy? How would you describe a basket boy? Typing in the chat, what is a basket boy? I was basket boy number 9, which meant I had to stand there on the stage in the gym while nearly half the guys got auctioned off. Minimum bid, $10. And if no one bid, the secret was a teacher who was assigned to bid on you. Yes, my friend, the possibilities for mortification were infinite. Some of the moms showed up and stood off to the side with their camcorders and zoom lenses, fidgeting and waving and basically acting as dweeby as their sons looked. I should know, my mom took off an hour off of work just to be one of them. Tim Pello was basket boy number 5, and his mom actually bid on him. No kidding. She jumped up and down, yelling, 20! I'll give you 20! Man, that'll brand you for life. Lucky for Tim, Kelly Trott came up with 22.50 and saved his sorry self from everlasting torture as a mama's boy. One of the few fates worse than a basket boy. Caleb Hughes was next, and he fetched the boosters all of $11.50. Then came Chad Ormond, who I swear was ready to pee his pants when Mrs. McClue made him step forward. She read his card, pinched his cheeks, and raked in 15 even. At this point, what stood between me and the auction block was John Truelock, and I wasn't exactly interested in what he had in his basket or what his hobbies and favorite sports were. I was too busy scanning the crowd for Jumbo Jenny, sweating my pits off. Mrs. McClure calls into the microphone, "Do I hear 10?" And it took me a minute to tune into the fact that no one said 10. No one said anything. "Come on out there. The lunch is delicious. Strawberry tarts, And Mrs. McClure goes back to reading off the 3x5 about John Truelock's lunch. Talk about embarrassing. This was worse than being a mama's boy. Worse than lunch with Jumbo Jenny. How'd he get voted basket boy if no one wanted to have lunch with him? Then off to the right of the crowd, I hear 10. 10? Did I hear 10? Mrs. McClure says with a fluttery smile. 12, came a voice from the same area. The first voice came back with 15, and all of a sudden I recognized whose voice it was. Julie Baker's. I searched through the crowd and found her, hand waving in the air. That look all over her face. 16, came the other voice. There was a pause, but then Julie shouts back with 18. 18, cries Mrs. McClure, who looks like she's about to collapse from relief. She pauses and then says, 18 going once, 18 going twice, sold for $18. To Julie, she was the last person I expected to bid on a lunch. Anybody's lunch. John staggered back into line, and I knew I was supposed to step forward, but I couldn't budge. I felt like I had been slugged in the stomach. Did Julie like John? Is that why she'd been so nice lately? Because she didn't care about me anymore? All my life, she's just been there, waiting to be avoided, and now it was like I didn't even exist. So go ahead and type in the chat. Who did Julie bid on at the auction? Who did Julie bid on at the auction? Step up, Bryce. Come on, don't be shy. Mike Abonito shoved me a little and said, your turn for torture. Get up here. It felt like walking the plank. I just stood up from sweating bullets while the booster queen dissected my lunch and started running through my list of favorites. Before she'd even finish, Shelley Stalls calls out, 10. What's that? Said Mrs. McClure. I'll give you 10. Oh, she laughs as she puts down her notes. Well, I guess I hear 10. 20, calls Miranda Humes from dead center. 25. It's Shelley again. I'm looking around for Jumbo Jenny, praying she's gone home sick or something, while Shelley and Miranda go up by 5s. 30, 35, 40. Then I spot her. She's about 20 feet behind Miranda, cleaning her fingernails with her teeth. 45, 50, 52. 52, interrupts the booster queen. Well, this has been lively. And from the looks of the basket, well worth the 60. 62, calls Shelley. Miranda scrambles around trying to beg money off her friends as Mrs. McClure calls, going once. But then Jenny stands up and bellows, 100. 100? There's a collective gasp, and then the entire student body turns and stares at Jenny. Well, laughs Mrs. McClure, we have 100. That is certainly an all-time record, and such a generous donation to the boosters. I wanted to boost her right off the stage. I was doomed. This was something I could never live down. Then there's this big commotion, and all of a sudden Shelley and Miranda are standing right next to each other calling, 122.50. We'll give you $122.50. $122.50. I thought the booster queen was going to polka. You're pooling your resources to have lunch with this fine young man? Yeah, they call. Then look over Jenny's way. Everyone looks over Jenny's way. Jenny shrugs and goes back to cleaning a nail. Well then, $122.50 going once. $122.50 going twice. sold to those two beautiful young ladies for an all-time record of $122.50. Dude, whispered Mike when I got back in line. Shelley and Miranda? How am I supposed to follow that? He didn't even come close. He got Terry Norris for $16, and the most anyone else got was 40. And when it was all over, all the guys told me, dude, you are like the man. Score. But I didn't feel like the man. I felt wiped out. My mom came up and gave me a hug and a kiss like I'd won a gold medal or something, and then whispered, my little baby, and clickety-clicked off in her heels back to work. So I was wiped out, embarrassed, and then practically dragged to the multi-purpose room by Shelley and Miranda. The boosters had outfitted the MPR with little tables for two, all decorated in shades of pink and blue and yellow, with the balloons and streamers everywhere. I felt like the Easter Bunny with my stupid basket boy lunch clutched in both hands, while Miranda held on to one arm and Shelley latched onto the other. They gave us the biggest table and whisked in an extra chair. When everyone was seated, Mrs. McClure said, boys and girls, I don't think I need to remind you that you are excused from class for the rest of the day. Enjoy your lunches, enjoy your friendships, take your time, relax, and thanks again for supporting your boosters. We won't be us without you. So go ahead and type in the chat, what do you think of the whole basket boy scenario? What do you think of the whole situation? Go ahead and type in the chat. And go ahead and type in the chat, who won Bryce at the auction? So there I was with the two hottest girls on campus having lunch. I was the man, the envy of every other guy in school. Buddy, I was miserable. I mean, these two girls may be gorgeous, but what was coming out of their mouths about Jumbo Jenny was embarrassingly ugly. Miranda works herself up. What was she thinking? Like you would ever go out with her, right, Bryce? Well, yeah, that was right, but it seemed wrong to say so. Look, can we talk about something else? Sure, like what? I don't care. Anything else? You guys going anywhere this summer? Miranda shoots off first. We're taking a cruise to the Mexican Riviera. We're supposed to stop in all these cool ports and shop and stuff. She flutters her eyelids at me and says, I could bring you something back. Shelley scoots her chair in a little and says, we're going up to the lake. My dad has a cabin there, and you can get the most outrageous tan. Do you remember what I looked like at the beginning of this year? I was like, black. I'm going to do that again, only this time I've got a schedule all worked out, so it's everywhere. It's even everywhere. She giggles and says, don't tell my mom, okay? She would have a knip. And this, my friend, is how the tan wars began. Miranda told Shelley that she didn't even notice her tan at the beginning of the year, and that the place to really roast is on a cruise ship. Shelley told Miranda that anyone with freckles can't really get tan, and since Miranda had freckles everywhere, the cruise was guaranteed a waste of money. I choked down my third of the lunch and looked around the room, trying to let it all flow past me. Then I saw Julie. She was 2 tables away from me, facing my direction. Only she wasn't looking at me. She was looking at John. Her eyes were all sparkly and laughing. My heart lurched. What was she laughing about? What were they talking about? How could she just sit there and look so beautiful? I felt myself spinning out of control. It was weird, like I couldn't even steer my own body. I'd always thought John was pretty cool, but right then I wanted to go over and throw him across the room. Shelley grabbed my arm and said, Bryce, are you all right? You look, I don't know, possessed or something. What? Oh, I tried taking a deep breath. What are you staring at? Miranda asked. They both looked over their shoulders and then shrugged and went back to picking at their food. but I couldn't stop myself from looking again. And in the back of my mind, I could hear my grandfather's voice saying, "The choices you make now will affect you for the rest of your life. Do the right thing. Do the right thing. Do the right thing." Miranda shook me out of it, asking, "Bryce, are you there?" I asked. "What are you doing? What are you going to do this summer?" "I don't know," I snapped. "Hey, maybe you can spend some time up at the lake with us," Shelley said. It was torture. I wanted to scream, "Shut up! Leave me alone!" I wanted to run out of the building and keep on running until I didn't feel like this anymore. "Lunch is really delicious, Bryce." Miranda's voice was floating around. "Bryce, do you hear me? This is a really spectacular lunch." So go ahead and type in the chat. Why is Bryce so distracted? What is making Bryce distracted? Go ahead and type in the chat. A simple little thank you would have sufficed, but could I come up with a simple little thank you? No. I turned on her and said, "Can we not talk about food or tans or hair?" She gave me an uppity little smile. "Well, what do you want to talk about then?" I blinked at her and then at Shelley. "How about perpetual motion? Know anything about it?" "Perpetual what?" Miranda started laughing. "What?" I asked her. "What's so funny?" She looks at me a minute and then snickers. I didn't realize I'd been on an intellectual. "Hey, I'm pretty smart. I'm plenty smart." "Yeah?" Miranda giggles. "Can you spell intellectual?" "He is too smart, Miranda." "Oh, stop kissing up, Shelley. You're trying to tell me you're after his brain? God, it's making me sick to watch you grovel." "Grovel? Excuse me?" "You heard me. He's not going to take you to the grad dance anyway, so just give up. Why don't you?" And with that, it was all over. One of my mom's flaky apple tarts got around into Miranda's hair. The extra ranch dressing got smeared into Shelley's, and before Mrs. McClure could say, "In the name of the boosters, what are you doing?" they were rolling on the floor, scratching each other's makeup off. I took this opportunity to leave my table and head for Julie's. I grabbed her by the hand and said, "I've got to talk to you." She sort of half stands and says, "What? What's going on, Bryce? Why are they fighting?" "Excuse us a minute, would you, John?" I pull her away from the table, and there's no place to go. And I've got her hand in mine, and I just can't think. So I stop right there in the middle of the room, and I look at her, at that face. I want to touch her cheek and see what it feels like. I want to touch her hair. It looks so incredibly soft. "Bryce," she whispered, "what's wrong?" I can barely breathe as I ask her, "Do you like him?" "Do I? You mean John?" "Yes." "Well, sure, he's nice and—" "No, do you like him?" My heart was pounding through my chest as I took her other hand and waited. "Well, no, I mean, not like that." "No," she said, "no. I didn't care where I was. I didn't care who I saw. Just had to kiss her. I leaned in, closed my eyes, and then—" She broke away from me. Suddenly, the room was dead quiet. Miranda and Shelley stared at me through their slimy hair. Everyone was looking at me like I'd blown my entire circuit board, and I just stood there, trying to reel in my lips and pull myself back together. Mrs. McClure took me by the shoulders, guided me to my chair, and told me, "You sit here and you stay there. You sit here." Then she hauled Miranda and Shelley outside, scolding them and telling them to find separate bathrooms and clean up while she ran down to the janitor to mop up their mess. I sat there by myself and didn't even care about covering up. I just wanted to be with her, to talk to her, to hold her hand again, to kiss her. Before school was out, I tried to talk to her again, but every time I got close, she dodged me. And then when the final bell rang, she disappeared. I looked everywhere for her, but she was gone. Garrett, however, wasn't. He tracked me down and said, "Dude, tell me it isn't true." I didn't say a word. I just headed for the bike rack, still hoping to find Julie. Oh man, it is true. Leave me alone, Garrett. You get hooked up with the two finest chicks on campus and then bail on them for Julie? You don't understand. You're right, dude. I completely don't understand. Did you seriously try to kiss her? I couldn't believe that part. We're talking Juliana Baker, your nightmare neighbor, the know-it-all nuisance, the coop poop babe. I stopped cold and shoved him. Just laid into him with both hands and shoved. That was a long time ago, man. Knock it off. Garrett pulled both hands up, but moved in at me. Dude, you have flipped, you know that? Just back off, would you? He blocked my path. I can't believe this. 2 hours ago, you were the man. The man. The whole school was on their knees before you. Now look at you. You're like a social hazard. He snorted and said, and dude, the truth is, if you're going to be like this, I don't need the association. I got right in his face and said, good, because you know what? Neither do I. I shoved him aside and ran. So before we go any further, Garrett said, dude, you have flipped, which is the title of the chapter. So what did Bryce mean about that? Go ahead. Sorry, what did Garrett mean when he said, dude, you have flipped, which is the title of the book and the title of the chapter? Go ahead and type in the chat. What does that mean? I wound up walking home in my pinchy shoes with dirty dishes clanking inside my sticky picnic hamper. This basket boy hiked all the way home, and there was a battle raging inside me. The old Bryce wanted to go back in time, wanted to hang with Garrett and shoot the breeze, and wanted to hate Julie Baker again. Wanted to be the man. But in my heart, I knew the old Bryce was toast. There was no going back. Not to Garrett or Shelley or Miranda or any of the people who wouldn't understand. Julie was different. But after all these years, that didn't bother me anymore. I liked her. I liked it. I liked her. And every time I saw her, she seemed more beautiful. She just seemed to glow. I'm not talking like 100-watt bulb. She just had warmth to her. Maybe it came from climbing that tree. Maybe it came from singing to chickens. Maybe it came from whacking at 2x4s and dreaming about perpetual motion. I don't know. All I know is that compared to her, Shelley and Miranda seemed so ordinary. I've never felt like this before, ever. And just admitting it to myself instead of hiding it made me feel strong, happy. I took off my shoes and socks and stuffed them in the basket. My tie whipped over my shoulder as I ran home barefoot, and I realized that Garrett was right about one thing. I had flipped. Completely. I trucked down our street and spotted her bike lying on the side of the driveway. She was home. I rang the bell until I thought it would break. No answer. I pounded on her door. No answer. I went home and called on the phone, and finally, her mother answers. Bryce, no, I'm sorry. She doesn't want to talk. Then she whispers, give her a little time, won't you? I gave her an hour. Almost. Then I went across the street. Please, Mrs. Baker, I've got to see her. She locked herself in her room, dear. Why don't you try phoning tomorrow? Tomorrow? I couldn't wait until tomorrow. So I went around the side of their house, climbed the fence, and knocked on her window. Julie, please, I've got to see you. So how is Bryce acting right now? How would you describe the way Bryce is acting? Go ahead and type in the chat. Bryce seems what? Her curtains didn't open, but the back door did, and out came Mrs. Baker to shoo me away. When I got home, my granddad was waiting at the front door. Bryce, what is going on? You've been running back and forth to the Bakers, climbing over their fence. You're acting like the world's on fire. I blurted, I can't believe this. I just can't believe this. She won't talk to me. He led me into the front door, saying, who won't talk to you? Julie. He hesitated. Is she mad at you? I don't know. Does she have any reason to be mad at you? No, yes, I don't know. Well, what happened? I tried to kiss her in front of this whole room of people while I was supposed to be having that stupid basket boy lunch with Shelley and Miranda. I tried to kiss her. Slowly, a smile spread across his face. You did? I was like possessed. I couldn't stop myself. But she pulled away and I looked out the window at the baker's house. And now she won't talk to me. Very quietly, my grandfather said, maybe she thinks this is all of a little sudden. But it's not. It's not? No, I turned to him. It started with that stupid newspaper article, and I don't know. I've been weirded out ever since. She doesn't look the same. She doesn't sound the same. She doesn't even seem like the same person to me. I stared out the window at the bakers. She's just different. My grandfather stood beside me and looked around the street too. No, Bryce, he said softly. She's the same, as she's always been. You're the one who's changed. He clapped his hand on my shoulder and whispered, and son, from here on out, you'll never be the same again. Maybe my grandfather's happy about all this, but I'm miserable. I can't eat, I can't watch TV, and I can't seem to do anything. So I went to bed early, but I can't sleep. I watched her house from my window for hours now. I've stared at the sky. I've counted sheep. But man, I can't stop kicking myself for what an idiot I've been all these years. And now, how am I going to make her listen to me? I'd scale that monster sycamore if I could, right to the top, and I'd yell her name across the rooftop for the whole world to hear. And since you know what a tree climbing weenie I am, I think it's pretty clear that I'm willing to do anything to get her to talk to me. Man, I'll dive after her into a chicken coop full of poop if that's what it takes. I'll ride my bike all the stinking way to school for the rest of eternity if it means being with her. Something. I've got to come up with something to show her that I've changed, to prove to her that I understand. But what? How do I show her that I'm not the guy she thinks I am? How do I erase everything I've done and start over? Maybe I can't. Maybe it just cannot be done. But if I learn one thing from Julie Baker, it's that I've got to pull my whole soul, heart and soul into it and try. Whatever happens, I know that my grandfather's right about one thing. I'll never be the same again. So it seems like Bryce had a huge change of heart. What do you think about all this? Type in the chat. What do you think about Bryce's change of heart and liking Julie?